When both you and the narcissist go silent, the world does not suddenly become calm. It does the opposite. It explodes on the inside because in that exact moment, someone finally loses control, and it is not you. Most people think that shared silence means the story is over, that everything has burned out, and there is nothing left. But the truth is much more unsettling and far more revealing. This is the point where the narcissist starts to mentally fall apart. And at the same time, this is where your real healing quietly begins. Stay with this because what comes next is the part almost no one prepares you for. If any of this feels uncomfortably familiar, that is not random. You are standing at the edge of a major shift. Understanding what is happening here is how you finally break the cycle for good. So, let's go deeper into what actually starts to unfold. When both you and the narcissist stop reaching out, the very first thing that happens for them is something like a mental reset. It is quiet, internal, and deeply psychological. Most people never notice it because it happens in silence long before the narcissist makes any obvious move. When you go quiet, you experience it as an emotional shift. It feels like a boundary, a pulling back, or a necessary step to protect yourself. But the narcissist does not experience your silence like that at all. They do not see it as self-respect or healing. They treat it like data. Your lack of response becomes information to study, not a signal to respect. They start asking themselves questions, but not the kind of questions healthy people ask. They are not wondering how they hurt you or what they could have done better. Instead, they are scanning for reasons that threaten their control. Did you get distracted by something new? Are you trying to punish them? Did someone else come into your life? Are you testing them to see what they will do? They are looking for leverage, not understanding. Your silence becomes a problem they need to fix because uncertainty makes them unstable. They cannot sit comfortably in not knowing. During this stage, they might not say anything at all. Their silence is not peace, and it is not maturity. It is strategy. They may quietly watch your online activity, check who is interacting with you, or keep tabs through mutual connections. They are observing, gathering clues, waiting to see if you break first. Narcissists strongly believe that people they once controlled will always come back, so they do not see your silence as an ending. They see it as a break, a delay, temporary resistance. This is why they often do not panic right away. They expect you to fall back into the same pattern just like before. They are counting on your guilt, your discomfort with tension, your urge to fix things and bring back calm. They assume you will eventually reach out, explain yourself, or soften your silence. When that does not happen, their internal reset grows more intense. They begin to feel that something is different this time. They start to sense their influence fading, and that is when the situation starts to feel dangerous to them. Silence in their world is never neutral. It is either an opening to regain control or a threat to their ego. The longer you stay quiet, the more unstable they feel because your silence shakes the power system they depended on. When both sides are silent, the emotional experience could not be more different for you than it is for them. And this contrast shows you a hard truth. You feel the loss, they feel the inconvenience. When you stop contacting them, you are usually carrying the full emotional weight of what happened. You are trying to sort through the confusion, the broken trust, the emotional exhaustion, and the unanswered questions. You may feel grief, anxiety, sadness, or even guilt. You are mourning not just the relationship, but the version of yourself that stayed too long and accepted too much. Your silence comes from emotional overload. You reached a point where your nervous system could no longer handle the chaos. You are trying to get back your sense of self, your peace, and your clarity. That inner work is heavy. It affects how you sleep, how you think, how you remember the past, and how you see yourself. Your body and mind are trying to recover. The narcissist, on the other hand, does not feel the silence with emotional depth. They do not sit with the loss the way you do. They do not reflect on what went wrong or how their behavior hurt you. They do not ask what they need to change. Their reaction is much more shallow and self-centered. Your silence disrupts their routine, not their heart. They were used to having access to your attention, your reactions, your explanations, your care, even your anger. All of that fed their sense of importance and control. When you go silent, that stream of validation suddenly shuts off. This does not emotionally break them. It annoys them. It frustrates them. They experience it like losing access to something they got used to using. It feels like a service cut off. They are not thinking about losing someone meaningful. They are thinking about why you are not answering. Your pain and their frustration live in completely different psychological spaces. You are grieving. They are calculating. You are healing. They are measuring their access. You feel emptiness. They feel interruption. As time passes, this difference becomes even more obvious. You slowly start to see how much emotional weight you were carrying and how much of yourself you had to silence just to keep things calm. You begin to see how draining it was to always explain, reassure, and adjust. Meanwhile, they start to notice that something that used to work easily no longer works at all. Your emotional availability is gone. The imbalance becomes impossible to ignore. Your silence pulls you deeper into self-awareness and recovery, while it pushes them into irritation and entitlement. You are dealing with pain that leads to growth. They are dealing with discomfort that is only about losing your compliance. When both sides are silent, the narcissist does not experience that quiet as a shared pause or a healthy break. They see it as a direct hit to their ego. Silence from someone they once controlled feels like rebellion. Narcissists see relationships through power, not mutual respect. So when you stop responding, stop chasing, and stop feeding them attention, it disrupts the hierarchy they built. Even if your intention was simply to protect yourself, they take it as defiance. In their mind, silence is never harmless. It is disrespect. It is resistance. It is proof that their influence might be slipping. This is why silence affects them more strongly than any argument ever will. Arguments keep them relevant. Emotional reactions keep them at the center of your world. Even your anger tells them they still matter. Silence removes them from the spotlight. And that loss of center stage threatens the fragile story they tell themselves about who they are. Your silence forces them to face a possibility they cannot stand, that they are not as powerful, needed, or special as they believed. Narcissists struggle deeply with uncertainty, and your lack of communication creates a space they cannot control or easily explain. Instead of seeing your silence as a boundary, they see it as a challenge. Their inner talk twists. They may label you as cruel, ungrateful, or manipulative. They may convince themselves you are playing games or trying to push their buttons. Their ego tells them your silence must be deliberate and strategic, not a result of exhaustion or self-protection. Some narcissists turn it into a contest, a test of who will break first. Others make themselves the victim, telling themselves that you abandoned them. Even after months or years of mistreatment toward you, they rewrite the meaning of your silence to protect their image, not to understand your pain. As this tension builds, their sense of control starts to crack. Your silence becomes a mirror that reflects their insecurity back to them. Instead of sitting with that discomfort, they create stories that restore their feeling of superiority. They may assume you will come back eventually because you always did before. Or they may start thinking of ways to emotionally punish you for stepping out of line. In their inner world, silence is dangerous because it suggests something they do not want to accept. You may no longer be under their influence. When both of you stop contacting each other, what happens inside them is very different from what happens inside you. For you, the silence can slowly turn into space. Space to breathe, space to think clearly, space to see what you went through. But for the narcissist, your absence creates a psychological vacuum. That empty space forces them to face the loss of control, something they spend their whole lives trying to avoid. They do not think in terms of shared distance or mutual boundaries. They see your pulling away as a crack in the system they built to hold up their identity. Narcissists do not have a stable inner sense of worth. Their self-esteem is built from the outside, held together by attention, reactions, and validation from other people. You were part of that structure. Your emotional responses, your pattern of coming back after conflict, your willingness to explain and forgive, all of that supported their sense of power. When you remove yourself, that structure weakens. And while you are slowly finding yourself again, they're scrambling to protect an identity that depends on control. This is why mutual silence is never truly mutual. You are stepping into clarity. They are stepping into instability. And that difference is exactly why your silence is so powerful, even when it hurts. Their sense of superiority and control depends on constant engagement. When you step back, you break that pattern. That break forces them into a moment of psychological exposure. It shows them, whether they admit it or not, how much they leaned on your attention. They have built a story where they were the one in charge, the one steering everything, the one making all the choices. Your silence challenges that story. It signals that you may no longer be playing the role they assigned to you. This shakes the carefully managed identity they hold on to. Without your reactions, they have nothing to push against, nothing to twist, nothing to use as proof of their dominance. This absence threatens them not because they truly care about the relationship in a deep or mature way, but because it damages the control they needed to feel important. This is the moment when their inner world becomes unsettled. They may start replaying old conversations, looking for hints they missed. They may wonder if someone else has taken your place. They may begin planning ways to regain control, even without talking to you. Your silence grows louder for them than it does for you because they cannot see what you are doing. That invisibility takes away their illusion that they can predict you. Suddenly, they are outside your world, no longer at the center, and that loss of center stage is unbearable for them. Their mind shifts from arrogance to unease, from entitlement to suspicion, from certainty to instability. And all of this is triggered by something as simple and powerful as your absence. When both you and the narcissist enter silence, it may look from the outside like nothing is happening. Inside, though, the narcissist begins a familiar pattern of actions aimed at getting their sense of control back. One of the most common reactions is trying to fill the gap your absence created through hoovering, baiting, or triangulation. These behaviors are not random. They are psychological tools they use when they feel their grip slipping. Hoovering happens when they realize your silence is not just a short pause. At first, they expect you to return because that is what they trained you to do. When you do not come back, panic slowly kicks in. Hoovering is their attempt to pull you back, not because of deep emotional connection, but because losing you shakes their ego. They might send a soft message, a nostalgic memory, or a plea wrapped around some crisis. They may seem sorry, self-aware, or suddenly very attentive. They adjust their approach to whatever they think will work, because the goal is not true reconnection. The goal is control. If hoovering feels too risky or does not work, they move to baiting. Baiting is designed to trigger an emotional reaction from you, good or bad. Narcissists do not care whether your reaction is love or anger. They care about being the one who caused it. They may post something online to stir jealousy, send a sharp or cold message to make you mad, or start unnecessary drama that forces you to respond. Any reaction, even fury, gives them back a sense of importance. Silence takes their power away. Baiting is how they poke at the wound they created, hoping you react just enough to show them they still have a way in. When those tactics fail, they move up to triangulation. This is where they bring in someone else, an ex, a new partner, a friend, or a family member. Not for real connection, but to build a story that puts them back in charge. They may show off a new relationship, hint that someone else appreciates them more, or exaggerate your silence to make themselves look like the injured one. The goal of triangulation is to make you feel replaced, insecure, or unimportant, so you feel pulled to prove your value or fight for your position in their life. These actions are not signs of love, they are signs of dependence. The narcissist depends on outside attention to keep their sense of self together. When you stop feeding that, they rush to patch the hole. Hoovering, baiting, and triangulation are their attempts to restore psychological dominance, not emotional closeness. These reactions come from fear, entitlement, and a shaken ego, all triggered by your silence. When the silence stretches on both sides, something deep starts to happen that you might not expect. While you may see the quiet as a step toward peace or closure, the narcissist feels it as rising anxiety. Your silence is not interpreted as calm. It is experienced as lost control. Their identity depends so strongly on other people's reactions, especially from those they once pulled into their orbit, that your lack of response sets off an alarm inside them. Your quiet is not their peace. It is their panic. Narcissists rely on emotional stimulation from others to hold up their fragile self-esteem. They need attention, praise, conflict, or drama. Anything that keeps them at the center of someone else's emotional life. When you stop giving them that energy, they feel their inner stability slipping. They cannot regulate their inner world without outside feedback, and your silence removes that support. This triggers a mental chain reaction. At first, they might try to pretend your silence does not matter. They may act distant, calm, or even like they are relieved, but this is a mask. As time passes, the quiet gets too loud to ignore. Without your attention building up their inflated self-image, they start to feel unimportant, unseen, and irrelevant. These feelings are unbearable for them. They hit their deepest fear of being ordinary, invisible, or forgettable. While you use the silence to recover, grow stronger, and rebuild yourself, they experience the same silence as an emotional hole that threatens their identity. Your nervous system starts to relax without the constant stress and unpredictability they brought. The fog lifts. You begin to see your worth and take back parts of yourself that were pushed down. Clarity appears in the quiet for you, while they feel inner chaos. The longer the silence lasts, the clearer the contrast becomes. They may obsess, replay old arguments, imagine new stories, or invent reasons for your distance. Uncertainty eats at them. They do not miss the real relationship. They miss the version of themselves they saw reflected in your reactions. While your silence heals you, theirs throws them off balance. You regain pieces of yourself. They feel pieces of their false identity slipping. What is peaceful and necessary for you becomes threatening for them. This difference exposes the imbalance that existed the whole time, showing that the quiet frees you while slowly pulling them apart on the inside. When the silence settles, a subtle shift starts inside you, often slow, confusing, but strangely relieving. Your nervous system, trained to stay on constant alert during the relationship, finally gets a chance to stop bracing for emotional impact. Narcissistic relationships create chronic hypervigilance. You learn to predict moods, reactions, and unpredictable emotional storms. Your body starts to expect tension, even during calm moments. At first, the silence may feel uncomfortable. You might feel restless, uneasy, or unsure. The lack of conflict might feel wrong or unfamiliar. This reaction is not weakness. It is your biology. Your body has been trained to survive in a state of stress. Slowly, though, clarity shows up. Your mind begins to untangle from the chaos. You notice how your thoughts shift way, and you are not waiting for manipulation or blow-ups. Your sleep starts to improve. Moments of real stillness appear, something you may not have felt for years. Your nervous system begins to reset. The danger has moved away. Healing begins. not because they finally gave you permission, apologized, or gave you closure, but because you removed yourself from the constant harm. You start to reclaim the emotional energy that was once swallowed by their needs and crises. You rediscover the ability to think clearly, to feel your own emotions without someone twisting them, and to make choices based on your values instead of constant fear and caution.